Follow the trend, tend to benefit while avoiding harm. Hello everyone, this is Mr. D. Today I want to share with you the other situation of the three transmissions, the repeated moon. Before introducing the repeated moon, you need to know this basic knowledge. The ancients of China discovered a set of rules after they did a lot of divinations. When the ancient people were predicting the future, at a certain point in time, a certain terrestrial branch always appeared in the four lessons or the three transmissions. Something was sure to happen. If this terrestrial branch was a sign of good things to come, then the ancient people called this terrestrial branch a god. If this terrestrial branch is a sign of bad things to happen, the ancient people called this terrestrial branch a demon. There are lots of the gods and demons, and I will have a video about them in detail. To make it easier for you to understand the gods and demons, I will just give you one example in this video. Sang Che Sha, which is the funeral procession. The Chinese ancients stipulated, in spring, J is the funeral procession. In summer, A is the funeral procession. In autumn, D is the funeral procession. In winter, G is the funeral procession. By the way, the time division of the four seasons here is based on the 24 solar terms of the Chinese lunar calendar. Now that we know what the terrestrial branch represents the funeral procession at different points in time, how do we use them? For example, in the spring, we predict the future development of someone's illness, and we get this quartz. The upper symbol of first lesson is J. The attribute of lower symbol of first lesson is wood. Metal restricts wood. Because the prediction date is spring, so J is the funeral procession. The lower symbol of first lesson represents the patient. If the funeral procession restricts the patient, this often indicates that the patient will eventually die. In ancient China, the long-distance transmission of information mainly depended on people riding horses to deliver messages. This kind of messenger horse is called the stagecoach. If the terrestrial branch of the prediction date is IAE, then the stagecoach is C. If the terrestrial branch of the prediction date is CGK, then the stagecoach is I. If the terrestrial branch of the prediction date is LDH, then the stagecoach is F. If the terrestrial branch of the prediction date is FJB, then the stagecoach is L. The stagecoach represents travel, moving, transportation, change, promotion, or wealth. In the last video, I introduced that the relationship between every two of the 12 terrestrial branches is the rush. The characteristic of the repeated moon is that all the terrestrial branches of the heaven plate and the earth plate have a relationship of the rush. This characteristic represents restlessness and great turmoil. Things fluctuate repeatedly. It's like a man moaning over and over again. So the name of this kind of course is the repeated moon. A and G rush to each other, B and H rush to each other, etc. Next, I will use a few examples to show you how to determine the three transmissions in the repeated moon. In this course, the first lesson is that upper symbol restricts lower symbol. The second lesson is that lower symbol restricts upper symbol. We take the upper symbol yin, which is C, of second lesson as the first transmission. Then we regard C as the earth plate and observe what its heaven plate is. It is I, so we use I as a middle transmission. Then we regard I as the earth plate and observe what its heaven plate is. It is C, so we use C as the final transmission. This method of determining three transmissions is the same as the thief and obedience. In this course, the first lesson and the third lesson are that lower symbol restricts upper symbol. Fourth lesson are that upper symbol restricts lower symbol. Then we observe what the yin or yang attribute of the heavenly stem of the prediction date is. Its attribute is yang. Because F's attribute is yin, G's attribute is yang. We take G as the first transmission. Then we regard G as the earth plate and observe what its heaven plate is. It is A, so we use A as a middle transmission. Then we regard A as the earth plate and observe what its heavenly plate is. It is G, so we use G as the final transmission. If there is no relationship that lower symbol restricts upper symbol, and only two relationships that upper symbol restricts lower symbol, we also use this method. This method of determining three transmissions is the same as the same one. In this course, the first lesson and the third lesson are that upper symbol restricts the lower symbol. The second lesson and the fourth lesson are that lower symbol restricts upper symbol. First of all, we ignore the first lesson and third lesson. Then we observe what the yin or yang attribute of the heavenly stem of the prediction date is. It is Q, and its attribute is yang. Because C's attribute is yang, G's attribute is yang too. Their attributes are all same as the heavenly stem of prediction date. Because I's attribute is Meng, A's attribute is Zhong, we take upper symbol of I, which is C, as the first transmission. Then we regard C as the earth plate and observe what its heaven plate is. It is I, so we use I as a middle transmission. Then we regard I as the earth plate and observe what its heaven plate is. It is C, so we use C as the final transmission. If there is no relationship that lower symbol restricts upper symbol, and only two relationships that upper symbol restricts lower symbol, we also use this method. This method of determining three transmissions is the same as the overcoming difficulties. In this course, there is no restriction relationship in the four lessons. We take the stagecoach as the first transmission. Because the terrestrial branch of the prediction date is H, the stagecoach is F. We use F as the first transmission. Then we use upper symbol of third lesson as the middle transmission. It is B. Then we use the upper symbol of first lesson as the final transmission. It is E. Restlessness, great turmoil. Things fluctuate repeatedly. Everything will go in the opposite direction. If you want something, you end up losing it. Something that was going to bad has suddenly recovered. The war that was supposed to be won was ultimately defeated. Someone wants to harm others, but he ends up harming himself. Someone was going to travel, but he returned home. Someone has nothing to rely on. To judge the final good or bad, we still have to judge according to the specific course. Subscribe. Be your own prophet.